going to repeat
that. Good morning. We are kicking off day 2 of the academic days with the 6th grade class. Beginning back in January, these 9 students have worked very hard comparing and contrasting 2 presidents of their choice. Through this process, the students explore these presidents' birth and childhood, education and career, their presidencies and post-presidencies, using all offline resources. The final product includes a final paper, a trifold that you will see today. I'm going to pray and then we will get started. God, we thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for guiding and being with these students during this research process. I pray that you would calm any nerves that they may have and that you would bless them for their hard work in this process. In your name we pray, amen. Enjoy these presentations.
Hi, I'm Allison Hetty, and these are my 2 presidents, Grover Cleveland and William McKinley. Grover Cleveland was born March 18, 1837 in Caldwell, New Jersey. Growing up as a kid, he never had formal education, and his dad was Richard Foley Cleveland, and his mom was Anne Neal Cleveland. When he grew up, he married Frances Folsom Cleveland on June 2nd, 1886, and his kids were Esther, Ruth, Marion, Richard, and Frances. He was a Democrat, and before he became president, he was a teacher and a lawyer, and after he was a lecturer. Other president jobs he had was sheriff of Erie County, mayor of Buffalo, and a governor of New York. So, some of his quotes were, "A cause worth fighting for is worth fighting for to the end," and "It is better to be defeated standing for high principle than to run by committing subterfuge." His presidency was from 1885 through 1889, and 1893 through 1897 because he was elected once and was elected again in 4 years. My other president is William McKinley. He was born on January 29th, 1843 in Niles, Ohio. He went to Allegheny College in 1860, and some of his jobs were teacher, clerk, soldier, lawyer, and politician. And he was also a mayor for the Union Army during the Civil War, and he was a Stark County prosecuting attorney in the U.S. House of Representatives, and he was governor of Ohio. He married Ida Saxton on January 25th, 1871, and he was a Republican. His parents were Nancy Campbell Allison McKinley, and his dad was also William McKinley. He didn't write any books, but Grover Cleveland wrote Presidential Problems in 1908, which is also the year that he died on June 28th, 1908 in Princeton, New Jersey. And some of William McKinley's quotes was, "That's all man can hope for during his lifetime, to set an example, and when he is dead, to be an inspiration for history. And war should never be entered upon until every agency of peace has failed." So this map shows where Grover Cleveland was born in Caldwell, New Jersey, and where William McKinley was born in Niles, Ohio. And some of the comparisons between them is they were both a teacher, lawyer, and a governor before their presidency. And they both served, well, they were both elected 2 terms because William McKinley died of assassination during his second presidency, and Grover Cleveland died because his health failed after he wrote presidential problems, and
What was one similarity that your president shared?
They both earned many awards as president as well. Thank you.
My name is Truman Brooks, and my two presidents are Harry Truman and Franklin D. Roosevelt. When they were growing up, they both grew up in very different environments. Harry Truman grew up in a very poor, unwealthy farm family in Missouri. Franklin D. Roosevelt, unlike Harry Truman, grew up in a very wealthy household in Hyde Park, New York. Harry Truman did not have much education but went to Independence High School and could not afford to go to college. Franklin D. Roosevelt was tutored most of his life until he went to college in Harvard University in 1900. Harry Truman's first job was a bank clerk. Then he became a Missouri National Guard because he loved Missouri so much. Franklin D. Roosevelt was a reporter for the Harvard Crimson, and he became the assistant to the editing manager. Harry Truman, in 1900, became a senator, and he created the Truman Committee, which investigated ways for spending of the government money. He saved $15 million in government money. In 1934, he ran for vice president and won, with Franklin D. Roosevelt as his president. Franklin D. Roosevelt was the governor of New York for a little bit, and then he became a New York State senator. He ran for vice president and then lost. And he became the assistant secretary to the Navy. Franklin D. Roosevelt was president when U.S. first joined in World War II. He did not tell much stuff to his vice president, Harry Truman. So when he died on April 12, 1935, Harry Truman abruptly had no idea what to do. His first action was to drop an atomic bomb on Hiroshima to end World War II. Then the Cold War began, and the Korean War after that. Franklin D. Roosevelt died of a cerebral hemorrhage, which is massive bleeding in the brain. Harry Truman died of old age and bad health.
What is one of your presidents best known for?
Harry Truman was the least wealthy president. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Zimmerman, and my two presidents are John F. Kennedy and Abraham Lincoln. Abe was born in Hardin County, Kentucky on February 12, 1809. Abe had a sibling named Sarah. When Abe was 21, he married Mary Todd on November 4, 1842. They had 4 sons, but sadly 3 of them had died. Abe was in the state legislature for 6 years and a lawyer for about 1 year. Abraham Lincoln became the 16th President of the United States on March 4, 1861. Some things he did during his presidency was he made the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared slaves free in the South. He also made the Gettysburg Address, which honored those who fought in the war between the states. Abe was shot by John Wilkes Booth while at Ford's Theater on April 14, 1865. My next president is John F. Kennedy. John was born on May 29, 1917, in Boston, Massachusetts. He had 7 siblings. John went to school when he graduated, he went to Harvard University. For 5 years, John was in Congress, and for 14, he served in the House and in the Senate. John F. Kennedy was elected president on the 35th president on January 20th, 1961. John was the first Catholic to become president. One of John's famous quotes were, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." One of the acts John did as president was the Equal Pay Act, which made it illegal for businesses to give less money to women than men for the same work. During a parade, John was shot by Lee Harvey Oswald on November 20th, 1963 in Dallas, Texas.
What is one similarity between both of your presidents?
They both hated slavery. Thank you.
Austin Mappin, and my two presidents were Bill Clinton and George Bush. George Bush was born in Texas, and Bill Clinton was born in Arkansas. Bill Clinton's dad was Tom Clinton, and Bill, and his mother was Virginia Del Cassidy. Bill Clinton was a Democrat. He was impeached. Both of these presidents were governor. George Bush was the governor of Texas. Bill Clinton was the governor of Arkansas. George Bush's parents were George H.W. Bush and Barbara Bush, and George Bush was a Republican. He flew warplanes for the National Guard. He was an artist and enjoyed painting. Bill Clinton enjoyed playing the saxophone. George Bush was president during September 11th, 2001 when a commercial airline flew into the World Trade Center. And these two presidents are both married. George Bush is married to his wife, Laura Bush, and they have two daughters, Jenna and Barbara, and Bill Clinton is married to his wife, Hillary Clinton, who also ran for president in 2016. They have one daughter named Chelsea, and Bill Clinton, and they both have written several books.
What item best represents one of your presidents?
Apple pie, because it was both of their favorite foods. Thank you.
My name is Maddie Bohanek, and my two presidents are Teddy Roosevelt and George Washington. George Washington was born in Pope's Creek, Virginia, and on February 22nd, 1732. He didn't have much education, and he was homeschooled, and his parents were tobacco farmers, and that was his first job. He was elected in 1789, and when he married his wife, he didn't have any children, but with his wife's past kids, he raised his wife's past kids. And he died on December 14th, 1789. One of George Washington's favorite quotes were, "It's better to be alone than in bad company." Teddy Roosevelt was born in New York on October 27, 1858. He went to Harvard University and graduated in 1880. But sadly, he died on January 6, 1919. One of my favorite quotes of Teddy Roosevelt is, "Speak softly and carry a big stick and you will go far." Teddy Roosevelt and George Washington were both athletes in their early days and they were both born in different types of farmers. And Teddy Roosevelt and George Washington both had a little bit of religious beliefs. Teddy Roosevelt was a strong Republican, and George Washington was neutral, which is like kind of both. And
what were some similarities your president shared?
Teddy Roosevelt and George Washington were both generals in the army, and they were both born in different types of farmers. Thank you.
Became a lieutenant in the Army. After his father's
Garfield was the second president to be assassinated, and he had 7 children. And Garfield was the last of the presidents to be born in a log cabin. Coolidge was nicknamed Silent Cal. And John Calvin Coolidge only spoke English. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Lucas Thomaston. Today I would like to introduce to you Andrew Johnson and Lyndon Baines Johnson, the United States 17th and 36th presidents, respectively. Andrew Johnson was born on December 29, 1808, to a poor family in Raleigh, North Carolina. His father died when he was young, leaving him to learn hard work from a very young age. Lyndon Baines Johnson was born on August 27, 1908, in Stonewall, Texas. Also born into a poor upbringing, young Lyndon was familiar with hard work. Both men served in offices prior to the presidency. Andrew Johnson served multiple political offices at multiple government levels, and Lyndon Baines Johnson only served as the Texas senator. Both men would eventually fill the role of vice president. Most notably, Andrew Johnson and Lyndon Baines Johnson assumed the office of the presidency due to assassination. Andrew Johnson following the shooting death of Abraham Lincoln, and Lyndon Baines Johnson after John F. Kennedy's fateful day in Dallas, Texas. Both men made major accomplishments for the good of the nation during their time in office. Andrew Johnson purchased Alaska from Russia for $7 million, supported the annexation of Texas, California, and Oregon, and sought to rebuild the nation after the American Civil War. Lyndon Baines Johnson created the Medicare and Medicaid program. He also started a program called Head Start, which provided an early education for poor children. He also sought to extend the freedoms of black men. After the office as president, Andrew Johnson returned to serve in the Tennessee Senate. He died of a sudden stroke on July 31, 1875. Lyndon Baines Johnson retired to his ranch in Texas, where he wrote a book detailing his time in office. He would pass away on January 22, 1973, of a sudden heart attack. In conclusion, both men show us that despite hard circumstances and obstacles, hard work and persistence can take you far in life.
What were your presidents criticized for?
Lyndon Baines Johnson was once criticized for picking up his dog by the ears. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matthew Severs, and my 2 presidents are Thomas Jefferson and James Monroe. I will be talking about Thomas Jefferson first because that is the card that's right here. Thomas Jefferson was born April 13th, 1743. He went to the College of William and Mary. His spouse's name was Martha Wales Skelton. He had 3 children. Their names were Martha, Jane, and Lucy. Other offices he held prior to being president were the Secretary of State, an ambassador to France, the Vice President, and the Governor of Virginia. After his presidency, he went on to found the University of Virginia. He wrote the Declaration of Independence, which declared that he wrote the first draft of the Declaration of Independence, which declared that the U.S. was free from Britain, and he also was president during the Louisiana Purchase, which gave them a great deal of land. His party was Republican. His inauguration date was March 4th, 1801. My next president is James Monroe. He was born April 28, 1758. He went to the College of William and Mary. In the military, he achieved the title of captain. His spouse's name was Elizabeth Courtwright, and he had 2 children, Eliza and Maria. He was the Secretary of State, an ambassador of France, and the Governor of Virginia, just like Thomas Jefferson. His party was Republican. He wrote the Monroe Doctrine, which declared that American countries cannot be colonized by European countries. His inauguration date was March 4th, 1817. I will be going over some similarities next. Both of them were born in April. Both of them had a middle-class upbringing and resources which ensured their political career.
Both of them were born and raised in Virginia. They were both educated at the College of William and Mary. They both experienced loss of children. Their career paths were very similar. Both of them were Republican. Both of them returned to farms after their presidency. Monroe returned to Oak Hills and Jefferson returned to Monticello. I will be going over some differences next. Monroe really enjoyed the outdoors, while Jefferson liked books more. Monroe went to the military after college, but Jefferson went straight into politics. Jefferson was more outspoken against slavery, while Monroe was quiet about it. Jefferson only had one surviving child, while Monroe had two. Monroe was inaugurated outdoors, and Jefferson was inaugurated indoors. Monticello, Jefferson's house, was more flashier than Monroe's house, Oak Hills. Jefferson lived to be 83 years old, and Monroe lived to be 73 years old.
What is something ironic about your presidents?
Both of them died on July 4th. I'm done.